Hello everyone, you're here with Winston at Greenland Garden Center. I'm going to be talking about some orchids today. Just a lot of your basic questions, watering requirements, selection. A lot of people wondering how much light or something needs or how to get it to rebloom. We've got a few different types of the orchids we sell here. I kind of divided them a little bit between your lower light and your more common ones and your higher light ones, some of the specialty ones we bring in. Probably the one that everyone's familiar with here is the Phalaenopsis or the moth orchids. Come in all sorts of colors. You can find these a lot of places these days. We get in a lot of wonderful colors and sizes here. They usually come potted in moss, and they kind of prefer a little bit more moisture, consistent moisture like that. So we always recommend people use a little bit of a finer media or the moss for them. There's something that needs fertilizing evenly throughout the growing season. So like a lot of orchids, they don't grow a whole bunch in the winters when it's colder and darker. But we sell this kind of just your regular run-of-the-mill orchid fertilizer. That's one that works well for all these guys actually, especially during the main growing season. Just a little bit higher nitrogen, something to keep the plant green, keep it going, because orchid medias never hold much fertilizer or food in them. We also have some ready to spray foliar feeds. These have a lot of micronutrients and stuff in it, keeps things super healthy, can up your bud count and stuff like that. And then something like a kelp extract. If you have a lot of orchids going on, it can be good to just get some extract, mix it up yourself, and that's basically what this foliar feed is pre-mixed. Your Phalaenopsis are a little bit lower light requirements than your other orchids. You can get away with being like near a bright window or an east window. And getting them to reflower, it's almost always a light issue with them. If I see people who have had one for a long time that hasn't flowered, it's because they're kind of treating it like a mushroom a little bit. It's in a dark corner somewhere. They were enjoying the flowers, but it's never catching enough sunlight to make flower buds, which is a very high energy, sort of expensive process. The next sort of type we get in here, especially on our big shipments coming in here, is the Vandaceous type. So this is a Vanda. You'll notice they don't grow in media. We'll never sell them growing in media because their roots are one of the few orchids that just will not adapt to growing in any sort of media. They need to either be grown in an open basket, or some people will grow them in a vase where the roots can be soaked a few times a week. Same thing if it's in the basket, you're just submerging like all the plant that has the roots on it and giving it a good drink there. Same thing, fertilize pretty heavily through that growing season, which like a lot of the other orchids is kind of April. You'll see them start waking up all the way through October till our days get really short. And they're something that likes very, very high light. So a lot of people who have Vandas toss them out into like a little greenhouse or their backyard, the full sun for the summer. You're gonna have to do that like kind of sequentially. You don't wanna harden them off so you don't burn them coming from indoors to out. But the more light, the more impressive these guys are. Very much the same with, I have a Cattleya here. We get in a lot of different mini Cattleyas, a lot of really nice named hybrids. They're something that's super high light as well. They're pretty much dormant during the winter, so you keep them a little bit on the drier side so you don't accidentally rot them. You're maybe watering once every 6 to 8 weeks. You want the media fully dry in the winter, and in the summer when it's actively growing, you want to keep it just drying between watering. So I think mine get watered every 2 weeks really well. I give them a soaking. But same thing with these guys, as much sun as possible. Like a really bright south window or even in a bit of a sheltered spot outside for the summer. They will sometimes kind of purple up on you, but that just means they're catching lots of sun. You'll get a lot of flowers in the next bloom cycle. Then the last type we bring in quite often is all your different sort of Phalaenopsis type Dendrobiums and your antelope types with the little twisted petals. Those are very similar to a Cattleya. Keep them drier in the off season. If they're a Dendrobium that doesn't lose its leaves, like a lot of the ones we sell, you do need to water them a bit in the winter to keep them from wilting on you. If there's something more like the specialty type a little bit that might be deciduous in the winter, you do need it to give it a full dry period there. These guys are very quick growers. Some of them grow canes like 3 feet tall in just a few months. So lots of food for those guys in the summer. And same thing with these guys, bright indirect light, but if they're not blooming, it's almost always because they're not getting enough light. Any sort of fertilizer will do to keep these guys happy and growing. The orchid ones, like I said, do have the higher nitrogen. A little bit of a bloom boosting, higher potassium can help in the long run too. Another thing that can kind of help a lot with your orchids too is knowing when to repot them. Orchids are all epiphytes, so they grow stuck to trees. Oh, for the most part, they're all epiphytes. All the ones we sell are. They grow stuck to trees in the wild where they're not used to being in a pot that's consistently moist and stuff like that. So you grow them in those nice free draining mixes, and you almost want them climbing out of the pot when you go to repot them. It looks like they're trying to escape a little bit. Or you can time it like just as the newest growth starts to reach the edge of the pot, you can go up. Usually we say up potting in the spring when everything's coming out of dormancy is best. And that being said, if it's not growing quickly, if it's not filling that pot really fast, you do also need to pay attention to see if your media is breaking down or not. Because if it's something like a Phalaenopsis, he's never going to completely crawl out the sides of this pot, but he's going to keep getting taller and taller. And this media might be doing the job, but usually every year, every 2 years for sure, the media is broken down quite a bit and it doesn't have great airflow in it. It's not doing its job anymore. It's not providing like that nice kind of moist but oxygenated media that the orchid needs. So it's a good idea, even if you can. We sell a lot of these grower pots for orchids, which is nice because they're see-through, so you can always check in on the condition of your roots and your media. I like it because I can always see like when my Cattleyas are like bone dry, they're ready for that next watering. I can see when my root tips are starting to actively grow. I know that's time to start fertilizing. Whereas like something like this, in the long run, it can be tricky to tell the conditions of your roots. So something like this, it's good to even just peek at the roots of your orchid every once in a while, kind of lift them out, see how things are going on, because it can happen pretty fast where your media starts to rot a little bit and that kind of takes your roots with it. What else? Oh, I guess there's a few different medias we can talk about too. We sell a lot of this Orchiada. It's a really nice, like premium grade orchid bark. New Zealand red pine is what it's made from. And it's just a nice uniform media, lots of great air space in there. And it takes a long time to break down too. And I think it has some sort of antifungal properties and stuff too. It makes really nice roots on your orchids. It comes in a few different sizes. Power is kind of the larger size, and that's the one for your kind of bigger, bulkier orchids with the larger roots, so that there's nice spaces for the roots. And then there's some kind of more fine, like a precision and a classic size. Those are smaller, so things with finer roots like your Dendrobiums or Insidium types, those ones like the finer media. It's kind of similar to a moss, but with a little bit better draining. And then we do have the sphagnum moss as well, which depending on your growing conditions, I know I'm bad for overwatering my orchids, so I don't grow anything in moss. But if you're somebody who's like maybe a little more forgetful or wants to be able to leave them for a longer amount of time, the moss can hold a little bit of extra moisture. There's also some blended mediums we sell, something like a Cymbidium. Likes that semi-terrestrial, so it's like a little bit of peat, cocoa fiber, you got your moss going on, you got your bark chips, all sorts of different specialty mixes and stuff like that. And we carry a full line of those, so if you're looking for something specific, we have those as well. Thanks for watching about Orchid Basics here at Greenland Garden Center. Don't forget to click like, subscribe, all sorts of great content on our Facebook page, and we'll see you again.